Hello, I am Dr. Norma Jones, and this is Chapter 8, Informative Speaking, Learning Objectives. By the end of this chapter, you will be able to 1. Define the purposes of informative speaking, 2. Identify and describe the 4 main types of informative speeches, 3. Identify the ethical responsibilities in developing informative speeches, 4. Differentiate between informative and persuasive speaking, 5. Explain how informative speaking supports civic understanding and engagement. Introduction. Informative speaking is one of the most useful and adaptable forms of public communication. Every day, people engage in informative speaking, whether teaching a process, describing an event, explaining a concept, or sharing research findings. The goal is not to persuade or argue, but to clarify, educate, and expand the audience's understanding. Informative speaking is a foundational skill because it helps students build credibility, develop analytical thinking, and gain communication confidence. In both academic and professional settings, the ability to explain ideas clearly and objectively is essential. Informative speaking shifts the focus from advocacy to illumination. When done well, it helps audiences grasp new knowledge and see familiar information in new ways. In this chapter, we address the purposes of informative speaking, review 4 main types of informative speeches, consider ethical responsibilities in developing informative speeches, differentiate between informative and persuasive speaking, and discuss how informative speaking supports civic understanding and engagement. The purpose of informative speaking. Informative speaking is designed to increase the audience's understanding or awareness of a subject. Unlike persuasive speeches, which seek to change opinions or inspire action, informative speeches aim to present information in a balanced and objective manner. The speaker's role is to share ideas clearly and accessibly. The lack of a clear side allows audiences to consider the content of the speech. To achieve this, speeches include 3 elements. Clarity. The message should be easy to follow and logically organized. For example, if you are explaining how the college registration process works, you might begin with the login steps, move through course selection, and conclude with payment and confirmation. Each stage should be clearly connected to the next. Also, terms should be defined to avoid misunderstanding. A negative example would be starting in the middle of the process or using unexplained jargon that confuses the audience. Accuracy. Information must be factually correct and supported by credible sources. For instance, when explaining how the college financial aid process works, a speaker should cite official information from the college's financial aid office or federal sources, such as FAFSA guidelines, rather than relying on rumors or social media posts. Similarly, if discussing campus safety, a speaker might reference reports from campus security or local law enforcement to ensure the information is factual and credible. A negative example would be repeating unverified claims from social media or presenting outdated information as fact. Relevance. Content should connect to the audience's interests, experiences, or needs. For example, when giving a speech to fellow college students, you might reference topics like navigating campus resources, managing time between classes and work, or finding affordable textbooks. These subjects are directly related to your peers' everyday experiences. A negative example could be discussing niche professional topics that have little to do with the audience's current life stage. An effective informative speech empowers the audience to learn and form their own conclusions. The focus is explanation, not persuasion. Informative speaking can build on the foundations of persuasive speaking because it still requires clear reasoning, credible evidence, and audience awareness. However, it is often more challenging because the speaker cannot take a side or argue a position, relying instead on balanced, objective delivery to keep the audience engaged. Types of informative speeches. While all informative speeches aim to clarify and explain, they vary in how they approach their subject matter. Most informative speeches fall into four major categories: explanatory, descriptive, demonstrative, and definitional. Explanatory speeches help audiences understand the how or why of a process, system, or concept. They break down complex ideas into understandable parts. Examples include explaining how the college's student orientation system operates or why social media algorithms influence user behavior. These speeches often rely on clear sequencing. Descriptive speeches create vivid mental images of people, places, events, or objects through language that appeals to the senses. For example, describing the atmosphere of a jazz club or the intricate details of a coral reef ecosystem allows audiences to visualize the subject. Effective descriptive speeches use sensory details and spatial organization to bring topics to life. Demonstrative speeches show how to complete a task or process. They are step-by-step explanations of how to do something, such as preparing a digital resume or how a telescope captures images of distant galaxies. Speakers focus on explaining rather than performing physical tasks. This type of speech may be harder for our class. Definitional speeches clarify the meaning of abstract or technical terms. You can also define an idea. These speeches are particularly important in academic or professional contexts, where precise understanding matters. Examples include defining artificial intelligence, implicit bias, or free speech. Such speeches often examine how terms have evolved or how different disciplines interpret them. Regardless of the type, all informative speeches share one purpose. They enhance audience understanding through clear, objective communication, ethical responsibilities, and balanced perspectives. The purpose of informative speaking is to share information responsibly while demonstrating honesty, balanced judgment, and respect for multiple perspectives. Ethical speakers present information truthfully and even-handedly, keeping in mind the diversity of their audience. Some ways to address this are objectivity and neutrality. An informative speaker should present evidence without steering the audience toward a conclusion. Instead of declaring that one approach is best, the speaker might say, "Studies indicate that this method produced higher outcomes in several trials." Such phrasing communicates findings without personal bias. Balanced representation. When topics involve differing opinions or controversial data, it is ethical to acknowledge all credible perspectives. For instance, a speech about artificial intelligence in education might discuss both its benefits, such as efficiency and personalized learning, and its challenges, including data privacy concerns. Presenting multiple viewpoints fosters audience trust and enhances credibility. Credibility and source transparency. Informative speakers strengthen their credibility by citing reliable, verifiable sources. Using diverse types of evidence, academic studies, government reports, and expert testimony demonstrates thorough research. Verbally citing sources during the speech fulfills academic integrity standards and builds trust with listeners. Maintaining ethical standards in informative speaking demonstrates respect for the audience's capacity to think critically and make informed decisions. When these standards are ignored, speakers risk losing credibility, spreading misinformation, and eroding audience trust. These consequences can damage both the speaker's reputation and the quality of public discourse. Informative versus persuasive speaking. Although informative and persuasive speeches share structural similarities, their goals are distinct. An informative speech educates while a persuasive speech advocates. Informative speakers aim to clarify a subject, while persuasive speakers aim to influence beliefs or behaviors. A persuasive presentation may include emotional appeals or calls to action, while an informative one avoids evaluative or emotionally charged language. For instance, a persuasive speech topic topic could be to persuade my audience that colleges should be required to adopt open educational resources. From there, examples of informative speech types include explanatory. Open educational resources, OER, are freely accessible teaching and learning materials that reduce textbook costs and allow instructors to customize course content. Descriptive, painting a picture of a campus wall of honor celebrating OER success stories, where photos of students and faculty are displayed alongside short quotes about how free materials are changing their collegiate experiences. Demonstrative, showing how to locate and download an OER textbook from the college library's website step by step, or showing teachers how to create/adopt OER resources for their classes. Definitional, defining what open educational resources means, including their Creative Commons licensing and shareability. Maintaining this distinction is essential for ethical communication. In this course, informative speeches are evaluated on how well they educate, not how convincingly they argue. Persuasive speeches cannot be accepted for this assignment. Speeches that are not explicitly informative cannot receive more than 40% of the speech grade. The informative speaker's role in civic life. Informative speaking contributes directly to democratic engagement. Informed citizens form the backbone of civic participation, and effective public speakers play a vital role in shaping collective understanding. When speakers share accurate, unbiased information, they empower communities to make better decisions. In an age of misinformation, the ability to communicate facts with accuracy and composure is a civic responsibility. Informative speakers embody intellectual humility. They acknowledge what is known, what is uncertain, and what remains to be explored. That transparency models the kind of discourse that sustains a healthy democracy. Summary. Informative speaking focuses on explanation, not persuasion. It emphasizes clarity, accuracy, and neutrality. These help audiences learn and think independently. The four main types of informative speeches, explanatory, descriptive, demonstrative, and definitional, serve distinct purposes, but all depend on ethical communication and credible research. By maintaining balance, avoiding bias, and citing sources responsibly, informative speakers foster understanding and build trust. These skills extend beyond the classroom into civic and professional life, where clear ethical communication supports informed participation and meaningful dialogue. Thank you so much for listening to this chapter of Fearless Public Speaking.